Welcome back to the Heart of Poland show in the impossible mission to uncover the heart of Poland. Now, to say I'm excited about today's episode would be the understatement of the century, because we have with us in the studio Anna Kalczyńska. I would say you need no introduction, but since this program is for people who don't yet know Poland, I'm very pleased to welcome you because you are the main presenter, or one of the main presenters on Dzień Dobry TVN, and you have a long career in broadcasting and journalism.
Morning show.
Yes, indeed, the most popular morning show in Poland. And this is also a chance for me to get revenge because I have been Anya's guest on many occasions, but this is the first time Anya's my guest.
That is true.
Anya, you're a working mother, you have 3 kids, you present this program, you do many other things. I checked your Instagram, you were at a party, I think, last night. Yeah, I always check.
I would be surprised if you didn't.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how tired are you right now?
Oh my gosh, we are Wednesday, right, today? It's Wednesday. No, it's okay. It's not too bad. Actually, I'm working 1 week. And that is true, I'm working a lot because I'm starting early in the morning, getting up at 5 a.m. and then working until 12 and then coming back home. But it's not the end of the story, right? It's just the beginning of a second life that I'm running, of course, leading a family and taking care of my kids. But it's okay, you know. Then comes the period of my free days, and once the kids are out for school, I'm just 100%. I have 100% time for myself, so I'm doing what I want to. Okay,
well, as is the Heart of Poland tradition, I'm going to ask you to show us the personal items that you brought with us, and this is very interesting. So let's have a look at that. What have you got?
Actually, it was a very emotional task for me to bring you something so personal and so close to me. And actually, I was looking for something. What could I bring you? And I found those, which are letters from my mom to my dad from the hospital, the very day when I was born. Because as you know, in the 70s, we didn't have all those mobile phones, and the access to the hospital was not that easy as it is today. So my mom would write how I was, and I have a very nice voice. You know, can you imagine that? You know, starting from the very first day. And so it's very touching.
And there's replies from your dad back as well?
Yes, wait. Yes. What is that you need more? He writes here. I know, the juices, they will be tomorrow. But today I was looking for them for so many kilometers running in the city. So today I need to go back. And tomorrow I'm trying to get to you. So you see, it's as if it is sort of conspiracy, you know? They were just writing.
How do you feel seeing those? Presumably you've looked at them from time to time.
It's very moving, it's very touching, and actually I'm so happy that they, you know, it shows you so many emotions they had. And I remember myself when I was, you know, a fresh mother as well, and I had all my closest people that I wanted to immediately, just like that. You know, my husband was there for me, with me during my delivery, and that was so different from those times. So,
well, we're going to go back to your childhood, but you've also brought with you some very interesting identification cards.
Identification cards. Yeah, they show a little bit of my career. So you can see my media Commission Européenne, when I was in Brussels studying, and then when I graduated from the College of Europe in Warsaw, Natolin Center, and then I went to Brussels and I worked in the Commission, actually in the Department of Press and Communication, which was a great experience, and I treasure this very much. So I remember those. Those gave me access to pretty much everywhere, and also to the very big room of the Commission where all the press conferences were held. So I remember that's where I met a very important journalist, a very important friend of mine, Matthew Kamiński, who now runs the Politico. I don't know if you know.
Yes, I do.
Politico.
Yes.
And so he was the one who told me about TVN24. The television that just started at that time. And I actually, through him, I got to Tomasz Lis, and who told me, you know what, maybe not Fakty, it's not that level, but you could go to TVN24 and try your chances over there, and that's how it started. So and then I worked for TVP. Yes, I did work for TVP.
That looks like something from the 80s there.
Telewizja Polska, yes. You see, I was so different.
Yeah, that haircut I think will come back in fashion eventually.
Yes, and I was dark haired. And those are the press entrances to the same That I can't remember. What is it? It's accreditation, I think, issued by BOR, non-existent anymore.
Right.
The Bureau of, how is it called?
Ochrona
rządu.
Rządu, so Government Protection Bureau, translating
Exactly.
literally. So let's go back to your childhood then. What was your earliest childhood memory? Can you go back that far?
My earliest childhood memory would be Mokotów. That's how it all started. I was born somewhere there.
So district in Warsaw, obviously.
Yes, district in Warsaw. And we had a very small apartment at that time, 37 square meters. And we lived with my brother and my parents, of course. And those were harsh times. I remember a tank, for instance, and that was the beginning of the martial law imposed in Poland. And also I remember that in 82 or 81, I can't remember exactly, I was granted permission to leave the country. And my parents sent me to my aunt to Brussels, which was, to me today, it's impossible to somehow to picture that, how a very small kid like I was at that time, I was 4.
Hold on your own?
On my own.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow.
And I was sent there because my parents first thought that it would be better for me to be there. It was safe. It was a brilliant, environment. And my aunt is alone. I mean, with my uncle at that time. They didn't have children, so I was like, the person that they could take care of, proper care. And so I spent the whole year over there without my parents, which was, to me today, very bizarre and very strange. But it was just, from their best of their heart. They just wanted the best for me. So I spent 1 year in Brussels. That's how I got to learn French.
Your parents are actors.
Yes.
What kind of career did they have at that time? Was it a little bit patchy? Were they famous?
They were very
how
famous.
Hard was it?
Yes, my dad was a very famous, a very handsome man and very handsome actor, coming back from north of Poland, meaning that's how he started his career in Teatr Wybrzeże. And he came back to Warsaw. He started the cooperation with Teatr Narodowy, and that's how he got to meet my mother, who was a student at that time. And later on, immediately when they got to know each other, they fell in love, and the story was dramatic. They immediately married in 74, I think. 76 was the year of my birth. So you can imagine, everything got to go very, very fast at that time. And my mother was an actress in Teatr Narodowy, and she had a brilliant career before I was born. Yeah. So I must say that my birth and the birth of my brother later on, 2 years later, I think they matched, they were, of course, great achievements for them, for both of them, both of my parents, but they also marked their careers very heavily. At that time, it was very different from what we have now today, like actresses didn't have so much possibilities of getting nannies, people who could take care of the kids, and life was brutal. It was not that easy as it is today. So she definitely devoted something for the family.
So if you could go back to that 5 or 6 year old Anya who came back from Brussels and just think about that time, did you have this ambition, this drive in yourself? Because I think you are a driven person. You've achieved a lot in your career in a pretty short space of time. If you look back at that 5 or 6 year old Anya, what would you say to her now?
Well, if those 5-year-old could talk to me myself
if you
today,
could talk to the 5-year-old now,
if I could talk
what
to
do you
them.
see in her?
Well, I could say hello to her and say that, yeah, everything's going to be fine, little girl. That was great. I remember that was a good period for me, and I had a very good childhood, I must say. I was sent to a French school, which was absolutely extraordinary in that times. There was only one French school at the embassy, French embassy in Warsaw. So it was designed from kids of diplomats, and not regular Poles could just attend the school like that. So my parents, through some, acquaintances, friends, etc., they managed somehow to apply for this school for me. And because I had a family in Brussels, it was somehow possible for me to attend it. And so I had a bunch of great friends from many, many countries. It was an international environment. So for a few years, because I didn't follow this, I didn't finish the whole process, educational process in the French system, but I think when I was 11, I came back to the Polish school. And at that time, it was a great childhood, I had a brother, we had a very happy life. Then we moved to a house in Grochów, where my parents live today. So, and yes, I was ambitious. I struggled because I didn't speak so fluently French as my friends, so I had to learn all the time. Then I struggled in the Polish school because I didn't know Russian language. And because my parents had to transfer me to the Polish system, I had to somehow catch up. So I had, all this time I had challenges ahead of me. Also, I was attending the music school, so I had a lot of work, and I was a very busy girl.
Were you independently busy, or did your parents have to force you to do your homework?
They started, I wanted to go to the school, but immediately I realized how much, how big is the amount of work that I had to do, to accomplish all the challenges and all the tasks that they were just somewhere ahead of me, like the exams every 6 months, it was a tough period. My dad is a musician as well, so no, he didn't have to force me, but I remember that it was a very difficult choice for me. I couldn't just go and play with my brother or just play with my friends. I had to practice at home. Yeah.
Okay, let's fast forward a few years then. You've gone to the European Commission.
Yes.
Was that again connected to your Belgium connection?
No, not at all. Not at all. No. When I graduated from applied linguistics in Warsaw, I felt that it wasn't enough. I knew that being a translator and an interpreter, although I had good scores at the exams, and I worked as an interpreter from French and into French, and I realized that it's a great job. It has a lot of opportunities. I could travel, I could meet interesting people. Every day you meet with different theme subject, and you need to still learn a lot and to somehow deepen your knowledge, linguistically speaking. But you're not actually building anything up to this. You're not speaking for yourself. You're still speaking for someone's. So you're just interpreting someone's visions, words, etc. And then I realized that I want to do something on my own. I want to be able to speak for myself. And then I realized that I need something more, and that's how College of Europe imposed itself. And that was the second diploma, and how do we say it in English? Europeistyka, the political system, European political system.
Thank you very much, Anya, for translating that.
So the European political system, that is exactly what I studied. And after that, the choice was obvious. All of us applied to European institutions for a stage. And
so an internship. And did you think you were going to become another European apparatchik? I don't know.
Yes.
That was the dream at that time?
That was my ambition at that time. I very much felt like, I wrote about, because it was ahead of the Polish referendum on joining the EU. And so I remember the subject of my diploma, my dissertation, right?
Yes.
The dissertation concerned the image of Poland in the EU countries and vice versa, the image of European Union in Poland. So I dreamt of being able to work in Poland to present the European Union to the Polish audience. And I thought that the best way would be to do it on the national level, on administrative level. And so when I got to Brussels, I thought that this is it. I remember this call from Brussels when I was accepted. I was so happy. I thought, that is it. And then in Brussels, it lasted for 6 months, and then that's where the reality occurred. I mean, we Poles did not have possibilities to start working in EU countries yet. We didn't have that possibility, and there was a very small amount of posts reserved for Polish candidates. And so I returned home. That's how I got to TVN24. I also had I remember an episode I applied to. At that time there was Komitet Integracji Europejskiej. Urząd Komitetu Integracji Europejskiej, and they were looking for someone who specifically had exactly, the angle of my studies and my dissertation. And I thought, okay, this is it. This is me. I mean, there's no better person than I am. And I had a great interview, and I was just certain I could get it. I spoke fluently 2 languages. I was driven. I had exactly the background they needed. And I thought that this is it. I should have it, and I didn't. And that was the biggest disappointment of my life at that time. And
so you came back.
Yes.
Looking for something else at that stage?
Looking for the administration still. And the administration didn't want me. And I said to myself, my gosh, after Natolin, with all this education, with languages that I have at this level, they cannot get a better candidate. And lucky me. I mean, now from this perspective, I can say that was a great opportunity.
Well, we never know what you might have achieved for Poland in the European Commission and in the European Union.
I could have been a diplomat, probably.
I think you would have been a good one. Yeah. So the turn to journalism then, and take us through that journey to the sofa on Dzień Dobry TVN.
Well, you see, it was a smooth transition. Because, as you know, with this interest that I had in the European Union, this is what I dealt with in TVN24. I started in a program that was called Tu Europa, and we started specifically to inform Poles on the European Union. Of course, TVN24 was a niche program, right? It's not like a big antenna like TVN. But at that time, we received grants from the European Commission, and this is precisely what I was prepared to do. So I had all the knowledge, and I was able to translate all the materials we got from European Commission, the feeds, etc.
Cool, that must be quite difficult.
No,
the British have a
easy.
very big problem with European
documents. It was great. I remember it,
And what was it like when you were in front of the camera for the first time? You're a little bit kind of like, because it's stressful.
I worked already in TVP, this is what I showed you, during studies. This is where I started, actually. I started with a program called Pegas. You don't know that, but Pegas was like the best cultural program on TV ever, It's I could say epic one, And all of the Poles know what Pegas was. At that time, it was a great privilege to start on this show, and I remember what my first material was? I prepared a material on Herlig Grudziński. You should read about him.
I should do. Unfortunately, I don't know, so you'll have to tell us who he is.
He's a great Polish writer, dealing with history as well. But anyway.
And what did you feel like you were really quite good at this? That this came to you naturally?
No. I wanted to do that. I was flirting with television. Then I had a program on TVP Polonia, which is designed for Polonia all over world. And that was, I was conducting interviews, but I was a shy person. Believe me, I was.
I can't believe it.
I was, and I still am somehow. But it was difficult, very difficult, and I was. I didn't know if I was good enough. So that's how this European Union came, It was my second thing to do.
It's quite common amongst young women to have that self-doubt in yourself, in your own, especially professional capability. I wonder, how have you kind of conquered that feeling over the years now, looking at your life, that kind of feeling that all of us have, which is, I'm not good at this, someone else is always better?
That's a very good question, very one. I think some deal with it through sports, some deal with it by getting better and better, just, reading a lot, trying to become simply more professional. And also television helps, paradoxically. For instance, I know a lot of actors who are shy and who deal with this problem that you mentioned, and somehow through acting, they transform themselves into another person, and that's how they just deal with all this doubt and this feeling of inferiority or insecurity, and they are great at that because they represent someone. For me, that's, I think, being an interpreter was always to be the second person, right? Like be next to the one, avoiding to be in the very center of attention. And television somehow helped me, and it helps me every day. Sometimes I'm telling my son, who is very shy, that Yashu, you think that I'm so outspoken and so sure of myself. Not at all. Sometimes I just want to run away and just never to appear on stage. But it's exciting also to fight with yourself somewhere, inside. And I love this fight, and I think it gets me a lot of satisfaction that I can become who I should be. I'm trying to get to those deepest feelings of me being, ready, being outspoken.
And do you have a process you go through in the mornings to get ready for the show?
Not anymore.
It must get boring. I mean, you must get so used to it that it's just a normal day,
true.
so normal.
That is true, but it's very easy to just get carried away. Sometimes I just notice that sometimes I'm thinking, yeah, well, all right, it's another day, It's pretty much the same as it was yesterday. We're just changing subjects and we're having different guests. But no, it doesn't work like that, because you can just stumble, you can somehow make a mistake, and that it's like a cold shower immediately. No. I'm trying to be as much focused as possible. Almost I must say that I have a partner next to me who's trying to do all he can to distract me.
This is Andrzej.
Andrzej.
You two on stage at
I love him, and he's like enfant terrible in this show. I'm not a very, disciplined person on earth. Those who know me, they could tell you something about it, but even me have to be the one who's just trying to get him, with his feet on the floor.
Not an easy job indeed. No. So let's fast forward to Dzień Dobry TVN. I think it's the biggest morning show. It's watched by millions, including myself, my wife, and my two daughters. And we were watching you this morning. And I've always been struck when I've watched you and other presenters that some segments are normal topics. Some are very painful. Yes. I remember, for example, the French terror attacks. Was it last year or the year before? And you went to report live at the scene. Being someone who speaks fluent French, it made perfect sense. I just wonder, how do you deal with those very terrible occasions? How do you process what you're going through while simultaneously communicating that to the outside world?
I think every journalist will tell you the same. I think you're representing someone. You're just trying to get to facts. So that helps you because you're establishing facts and you're just passing the knowledge that you gathered and all the info that you gathered to the audience, curious of what actually happened. But times changed, and today I can tell you that I think the audience requires something more. They don't want facts anymore. They want emotions. They want something more to that. Of course, we journalists, we should be professionals, of course, as always, and we should be as cold as possible and deprive ourselves from those very emotional, states or feelings, subjects. But you are allowed, in my view, to pass a little bit of yourself. And yes, in France it was very difficult because we were at the heart of the events. I remember we were just sitting in the restaurant and hearing the ambulances going on, and we immediately thought that something could have happened, and then we realized what happened. And then you're just putting on a different mode. You're just running, and you take your cameraman. You just think of the batteries. Are there enough batteries? Are we having the phones on? And just trying to talk to people. it's different. You have your accreditation, your cards with you, so you're like a different person, and you're immune.
And when you go home, when maybe you're
when
with
you
your
go
children?
home, you cry, and I remember this moment very well. I remember I was just sitting at the airport, and we were entering the airplane, Charles de Gaulle, and I remember that very well. I was sitting next to a window so that no one can see me, and I was just crying because all those emotions just left, and I knew that I would be safely home soon. I just spoke to my kids, to my husband. They all knew that it's fine, and I could just let it go. So you let it go, you cry, you need to.
One of the other moving things that you have to do in your role is to talk to people who are going through difficult personal times. Yesterday, I think there was a program about children with genetic diseases. It certainly makes me cry just watching it. As a mother of three, as a human being, again, how do you compose yourself to get through that and get to the truth of the matter?
I am so happy to have a partner in this program because this very conversation, this very subject that you're mentioning was particularly hard for me. That was a terrible, terrible story because you face a story of parents who are deprived of hope, and they just are buying time because all of they have is it's not hope anymore. It's just time that can be measured in weeks, months. You don't know that, but it's hard to imagine. But you do, of course. You're a mother or you're a father, and you think of your children. And all I wanted to do when I was watching or talking to the doctor in the studio, I just wanted to hug my kids and tell them how much I love them. Yes, the stories are very emotional and very difficult, and then hopefully there's your partner next to you who can just take it on. And he helped me a lot yesterday, I must say.
That was a particularly tough episode. Okay, well, I actually saw a program where Andrzej said that he tried to think of something you were bad at, and he spent a lot of time thinking about it, and he couldn't think of anything. He said you're good at everything. So despite his on-screen behaviour, he's very complimentary about it. I wonder, what do you think you need to improve on in a professional capacity? What are you not happy
there's
about?
A lot of things that I should. Absolutely. What I should improve, I should be more focused. Concentration is absolutely one of the things that I should work on. Also, what else? Establishing facts, This is another thing. I mean, I have, as everyone, subjects that are of more interest to me. Some of them are less interesting to me. I definitely should try to get more involved, and sometimes I can feel that I'm not 100% involved in a conversation that is a little bit next to my main area of interest, like economy, for instance.
That was very diplomatically put.
No, but it's just it's a fact. I can see it. But I'm trying. I'm doing my best.
Yep.
I'm working in a very peculiar program.
Yes.
We're dealing with, as you mentioned, dramatic stories. Next to them comes a hilarious, story. Sometimes we have economic facts and some geographies, some traveling stories, plenty of stuff. So it's difficult to be good at everything.
Yes.
But we should.
You're also, I think, I would say, a role model. You're certainly someone who appears in the press very, very often. Mm-hmm. Are you conscious of the fact that as a woman now, the way what you say and how you look can have an impact on others?
I realized that when I transferred to TVN Dzień Dobry, that was a shock. I was working for 12 years in the television, Patrick, and from one day to another, changing programs, it appeared that I'm a star, which who I'm not, and I'm not today at all. So it's absolutely. People overreact. They write about us stars, which is absolutely.
So you're not a star?
No, not at all.
Because many people would disagree with that. They think you're one of the best-known journalists and TV presenters.
I don't know. Grażyna Szapowska is a star. Edyta Górniak is a star. You could just name them. Aleksandra Kurzak is a star. But No. People from the television, we are just acting on behalf of our viewers. We're not stars. Come on, we're celebrities or journalists. Call them whatever you like, but not stars. It's not true.
Maybe you're not, maybe you are, but what you certainly do get is a lot of attention on the internet. And
That
with
is
that
true.
comes hate, as we call it in Polish.
Yes.
So just this morning I was reading comments, mostly positive, some negative. How do you deal with that?
Well,
Do you Google yourself? Be honest. Have you ever
I'm trying
Googled
to
yourself?
be good at myself. No. You know, I'm trying to discern hate from critic, because critic is a good thing. And I'm not erasing comments on my Instagram when someone writes me, "Oh, you could have done this better," or "I didn't like the way you named something," or whatever. I think this is a positive feedback, and you could just take from it and build on that. However, hate is a fact also, and I'm trying to fight with it as much as I can. I just hate the hate. This is so typical of Poland. I don't know if anyone can measure it, you know, the scale of it in Poland and somewhere else. But I think here, in this beautiful country, the country that I love so much, and I don't like people who tell bad things about my countries, really. But unfortunately, it must be said that we are so critical of ourselves.
Yes.
Oh my God. And I don't know where that stems from. And we also, we like people to be modest. But when someone is a little bit from out of the cadre, you know, they immediately attack them.
Yeah.
So we're not very tolerant, unfortunately, yet.
We've only got a couple of minutes left, so I want to ask you about Poland then. What kind of Poland do you want your children to grow up and become adults in?
Oh, it's a great question, especially today, you know, in the 100th anniversary of Polish independence. I was just thinking of it because my kids are very small, but I'm trying to tell them as much as possible at this age, at this stage, you know. And I think it's an important role for me as a mother, as a parent. I would like them to live in a country which is prosperous, absolutely, which gives them possibilities to grow, to develop their best potential. I would like them to be able to live in a country which is tolerant, open to Europe, to the world, who is inviting and multicultural. This is how I would see it. But also, I would like this country to be as close as possible to Polish traditions, to the values that we cherish here. I know it's very symbolic what I'm saying and very vague, but it depends on what you mean by that.
So that's fine. Well, let's talk about what do you think is unique about Poland then, if you had to compare it to other countries? Are we more traditional than other countries? Do we have a better connection to our past?
I think what we have here in Poland is that we are very monolithic. For instance, we are a single ethnic country. You know, it's enough that you just cross the border, you go to Germany, and you see a different planet almost. I'm not saying that this is bad or this is wrong, because I think it's good that in Poland we are different. But I think it's just coming, and it will change. I think this society needs a little bit more air. You know, it has to be a little bit more diverse than it is today. Welcome to Poland, Patrick. Welcome. I honestly think that we are changing. I think that you also can tell more than I could, right, about the fact that Poles speak better languages, right, better English. They're trying to, right?
And where's the future for you now, Anya? Where do you think you could go? Obviously, no one's suggesting you leave Dzień Dobry TVN. We don't want that to be the headline. But what would push you in the future?
That is a good question, because I remember my uncle from Boston who told me, Anna, you should picture yourself in 10 years' time. At every single moment of your life, you should have this idea of yourself in 10 years. But I never did that. And actually, it was very beneficial to me, because life always surprised me, and it offered plenty of possibilities and opportunities that I just could take like this, you know, and I'm happy with that. And today, 10 years, my God, I'm going to be 50. Jesus. Well, I hope I can be a happy person as I am today, and a good one, and that I can just take care of my kids the best I can, that I'm going to lead a happy life just like today, and that I can be quiet about my professional life, which is not as obvious, you know. We're living in very difficult and specific times. So
yes, indeed we are. Well,
who knows?
I can guarantee you Heart of Poland will still be going, so I now issue you an invitation in 10 years' time to redo this interview.
Thank
Let's see
you.
exactly what did happen. Anna Kalczyńska, you've been a fantastic guest on the show.
Thank you so much.
As somebody who's inspiring me as a journalist.
And
I know
vice versa.
Everything you said today will be fascinating for our readers, so thank you for joining us. Make sure you tune into the next episode of Heart of Poland, and of course share this episode on any channel that you can get it on, whether that be LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You know what to do. Share this episode.